I'm Stephanie Weaver here in the Blue and Yellow Kitchen where cooking meets culture. And today I'm thrilled to have as my guest Kate Milliken, author of Kept Animals. Welcome, Kate. How are you?
I'm great. Stephanie, thank you so much for having me.
It's just my thrill. Kate was the winner of the 2013 Iowa Short Fiction Award for her book of short stories, If I'd Known You Were Coming. This is her first novel, Kept Animals, which came out in May, correct?
April 21st.
Okay, so it came out in April. Is it going to be a paperback at any point? Do you know yet?
Yeah, I believe we've moved the paperback launch to May or June of next year.
Okay.
That's what we've been talking about. So
So-
it'll be a summer book.
Summer book, but you want to buy it now because it's so good. Oh my gosh, people. This book, I'm thrilled to get Kate. We had to reschedule once or twice. She's a mom and has kids at home, and it's the pandemic. It's all insane. But I read this book when it came out, and I was so blown away. And then I just kind of re-skimmed it to get ready for the show, and I just was, again, just amazed at the craft here. So we're gonna.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's set in Southern California, Topanga Canyon near Los Angeles during fire season. Very appropriate because we both just had climate fires near us. And it's a braided story. So what that means is there's two kind of storylines that happen interchangeably. 1993 at this ranch in Topanga Canyon, and 2015 at a ranch in Wyoming. And then the characters intersect. So what we're going to make today is my granola, because there's really no food in the book, but I had to make this work. But I thought about, granola is very crunchy, California, and this is likely something that some of these horsey girls might have in their backpacks to snack on while they're doing their trail rides. So I was a little bit my figuring out and being creative how we could do this. So I'm going to start the granola, and then we're going to talk about the book. So what I've got in the bowl is olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and if you have, this is kind of an elevated granola. You can make it with regular olive oil, you can make it with regular salt, you can make it with regular cinnamon, but I'm going to give you some tips to just really make it sing. So I've got this local olive oil from Temecula Olive Oil Company. That's fresh blood orange olive oil, and it's just has this incredible smell. Then you've got maple syrup. And the link will be in the comments. So this is actually from my website. And then a little bit of cinnamon. Now, if you've never gone to like a spice shop and bought Vietnamese cinnamon, you are going to thank me for this tip. It is worth the little bit of extra money because it just is incredible. And if you think you know cinnamon and you've never had the Vietnamese cinnamon, you really need to check it out. And then the other thing is you absolutely can use sea salt, Himalayan pink salt. But my great boy used to travel a lot for work, and he would go to fancy grocery stores in other countries, and he brought me back this vanilla salt from England. And again, it's just another way to sort of elevate this particular recipe, because just adding that little hint of layer of vanilla with the salt just makes it just super yummy. So you just stir the stuff together.
Making me so hungry.
Oh, good. Well,
that sounds amazing.
That's part of the goal. And so if you want this to be gluten-free, so you guys know I'm gluten-free, you want to use gluten-free rolled oats. So these are Bob's Red Mill gluten-free rolled oats. And then some super yummy unsweetened coconut. They're sometimes called chips, but they're coconut flakes. You want them unsweetened because you're kind of controlling the sweetness level on your own. And then I usually use raw sunflower seeds, and either you can add raw pepitas, which are pumpkin seeds, or you can skip them. I didn't have them today. And then some kind of pecans, walnuts, almonds, if they're slivered would be better. And then you just mix all this together. And if you want it to kind of stick together to be more of a snack, that's the version I'm making in the oven today. You want to use a little bit more of the maple syrup because then it'll really stick together and clump together, and that's easier to eat on the trail. If you want it more of as a breakfast cereal, it's really wonderful to throw it over vanilla ice cream or good quality yogurt. So essentially that's it. And then the oven is set at 300, and I'm going to bake it for 15 minutes, stir it, bake it another 10. So as I said, the link is in the comments. And so you'll be able to make this yourself. And I also have some notes for you if you are one of my migraine folks. There is a version of this in my book, The Migraine Relief Plan, so I've also got a migraine-friendly version for y'all. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to get that spread in a second. So Kate, we know it's about horse girls. Were you a horse girl? I assume you were, because this feels so real.
I was a horse girl, and I was a horse girl in the early 90s, and I did ride horses in Topanga. So, and this is based on a real life wildfire. So all of, I did a little bit of the write what you know, as they say.
That's great. And all of those details absolutely come through. Like I knew that it had to be from your real life experience. Okay, so let me just slide that into the oven without burning myself, which is always important. Okay, so the main character is Rory. And she works at the ranch. There's a couple of other girls. There's a couple of boys. They're all 15, 16, 17, that age range, Kate?
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Rory is 15.
Okay.
The other girls are a little bit older, 17.
And so it's a coming of age story. What I loved and I really appreciated reading it the second time was there's all these layers in this story. There's a house that overlooks another house. There's white kids and Mexican kids. There's rich kids and poor kids. There's a movie star's daughter. And then there's the ranch, the people that work at the ranch. And so there's all those layers that you do find in California, at least in this part of California, where that sort of class warfare, which is subtle but super deadly, is going on. But everybody at the ranch, they're all riding horses, and so it's this great equalizer. And yet, some very difficult, challenging things happen. How did you build these characters? Like, how did you figure out who they were going to be? And
I'll admit I had a couple characters from my first book, from my story collection, that weren't really going away. There were, so Rory and Vivian are kind of holdovers from that collection. I had started writing this novel before that book was published. They have different names in that book, but if anybody wanted to do some sleuthing, they could figure it out. And I knew I wanted to write about Topanga, particularly because of those intersections of race, class, just the economic hierarchies that I experienced as a kid growing up, witnessed, felt, and also that particular time in Southern California. I think you're probably, if you've lived there for a while, familiar with that era being very tense in terms of culture, and it was something that I wanted to unpack as I wrote, what it was that I felt and experienced there. When I started writing the book in 2010, we were in a very different political climate, and I thought I was just kind of looking at the world that I'd grown up in, not understanding that it was sort of prescient to the time we live in right in this moment. I knew I wanted to write about the environment. I knew I wanted to write about California fire, obviously, having been touched by that particular fire in 1993. I did not, at the outset, understand that so many of these themes were going to just grow, and the book would become more relevant in a lot of ways. But the characters grew out of, I think you're not supposed to say this, the characters kind of grew out of the themes that I wanted to write about in a way. So I already had two of them, and I wanted to look at certain issues, and I let those characters exemplify the things I wanted to think about and write about. So a little bit backwards from what they teach you, in most writing programs, but those were my motivations. I was definitely, I do think I am a thematic writer. I like allegories. So yeah, that's where it came from.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that struck me was that none of those characters felt like, oh, I need a so-and-so kid, so his or her name is X. They all feel like real people. So you did an outstanding job of, once you determined kind of who you needed and what story you wanted to tell, of making them fleshed out, full-bodied characters who some of them I really liked, some of them I disliked intensely. The movie star's daughter is one that is very. She's a sad character. Like you feel for her throughout, even though she's got all this wealth. She's kind of trapped in this house, and there's this whole thing about being watched that's interesting, that kind of goes in and out as well. And certainly, I think for those of you who, most of the country doesn't live in California, but for those of us who live in Southern California, there is a very specific ethos around the canyons and fire season, and oftentimes Santa Ana's, which is the name of the weather pattern that gives me migraines and also causes these fires, is for me is usually depicted in media not at all realistically. Like it's like the wind is magical or everybody acts crazy, and it's just not like that. It's like it's mostly like a big nuisance because it's so hot and so dry, and you feel like you just need so much water, and then you're worried about the fires starting, and we know from page 1 that there's going to be a big fire. So there's no pretense that that's happening. What I thought was really fascinating, and we don't do spoilers here, so I'm not going to give away, but what I thought was going to be the climax of the book was not the climax of the book. So that was really outstanding crafting, because I assumed I knew where we were going, and where we were going was so much more devastating and heartbreaking than I even expected, that my hat is really off to you for that, because it was really stunning what happens towards the end of the book, which you at some point as the reader, because you're going back and forth between almost present day and this past, it took me a long time to figure out who the present day narrator was. And then once I knew more about Rory, I was like, well, wait, how is she related to the present day character? And it took me many pages to kind of piece that together. And so instead of it all being really obvious, it was not. And I thought that was a true testament to your crafting, that I was so captured by these people and, and the present day story, trying to figure out how they related. And it's masterful. And that's why I'm so glad to have you on the show, because I got to say that to you.
Thank you so much. That's so generous. I really appreciate it. I mean, one of the reasons it took me so long to write the book was that I knew what I wanted to write about, and then it was making those characters real people and living with them long enough that they stood on their own, and the themes kind of became secondary to your reading process, because you cared, and I had to get to that place where it was just about them and letting them speak to me, and also writing against stereotypes, in terms of Vivian, not letting her just be a starlet or the daughter of a famous actor, but wanting her to have real depth. And she ended up being one of the most fun characters for me to write. Honestly, I love her dialogue. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a photographer. So that Rory, the main character, is a photographer, which has also a big part of the climax. There's some photographs that she takes of Vivian are a turning point in the story, and those are described really well. And the whole process of being in the dark room and seeing these pictures emerge, and I felt like that's kind of what was happening for me as the reader, as things were getting clearer and coming into focus. And so that sense of being in the dark room, I really picked that up as well. On the second read, I realized that there's a huge foreshadowing of the climax scene when the special horse, Chaparral, gets taken to be bred. And so I didn't even register that the first time around. And so there's just a lot of beautiful crafting here. And so I just wanted to just say great job, because that was just amazing.
Thank you.
What else do you want?
I love plot. I love braiding. I love a puzzle. So I definitely set up a lot of formal challenges for myself in writing a multi-generational story, because I don't think it's giving away too much to say that since she says it in that opening paragraph, it is, or that opening page, the story is ultimately told from Rory's daughter's perspective, and it's you coming to an understanding of how that came to be as kind of the story, as well as the fire.
Yes. So, yeah, but I didn't really pick that up when I read it. So, you know, I think part of it is I got so engrossed that I was missing, you were giving me some clues and I missed some of them. And when I read it again, I was like, oh, that's right. Oh, she already told me that. Why didn't I get that the first time around? Sometimes when you get really sucked into a story, you miss some of the details. So it was great for me to read it again. So I'm going to go ahead and, so I do have a bowl of the granola because I had already made it a while back. Oops.
Oh, look at that.
Oops, I'm spilling it.
You did is that walnuts or pecans?
Pecans in this version.
Yep.
There we go. So I just want to so everybody can see the yummy goodness, which I spilled in front of Kate there. And then I'm just going to pour a little. I've got this really cute little pitcher that says love on it, and I'm going to just pour a little bit of my favorite nut milk blend. So the only thing you need to know about the recipe is that the fruit goes on last after it's completely cooked. Completely cooled. So you can use, I've got some organic raisins here. Dehydrated fruit, freeze-dried fruit is fabulous in this. So you can do like dehydrated strawberries, dehydrated blueberries are really great. And that just adds that really nice pop of kind of freshness and texture. So I'm just gonna have a little bite, and Kate is gonna read a section I asked her to read to us. So Kate, take it away.
Okay, sure. So this is from Charlie's point of view, and she is the only character that has a first-person voice in story, Rory's daughter. Granddad was the only one of three that got out of the fire without a scar from it. Mama's is a braided line of white flesh, like a whip of flame licked her arm, thinning and disappearing at the base of her neck. Shap's is worse. Almost her whole flank was burned, from her belly to her ear. Not just singed, but skin blistering, falling away down to an angry pink. Granddad says an injury like that can kill a horse from the shock of it alone, but not Shap. 7 horses died in that fire, and everything on that ranch, all but an old house and half of a barn, burned to the ground. It's not something Mama or Granddad talk about much, so I might not know anything about it if not for the scars and the fact that when there's news of a fire elsewhere, a look settles over each of them, their breath stopped in the grip of their memories. I swear, sometimes I can feel the heat and shine of that fire, but it's no memory, more a sensation, like a scrap from a forgotten dream rising up in the early morning and then, just as swift, gone again. I was born 8 months after that canyon burned to the day, July 2nd, 1994. Of course I came early. Early in every way, Granddad says. Mama was only 16.
So I hope that, thank you, Kate, that was beautiful. I hope that gives you, I picked that passage because it kind of sets up the themes, the characters, showcases Kate's beautiful writing. And I hope it whets your appetite to buy this book. So support your local independent bookstore if you can. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that if you pay full price for a book, the author gets a bigger cut. So we really appreciate it when you don't buy from the big online discounter, because it means we end up getting more royalties at the end. And so authors do not make much money off of our work. So we really appreciate it when people support us by buying our books. So I'll have a link to my local bookstore, which you can purchase it from them, or you can purchase it from your favorite independent bookstore. You can also choose a Black-owned bookstore if you prefer, if you want to support people that way. And if you can't afford that, we understand for sure. Online is fine. But just so you know, we really do appreciate that when that happens. And I'll have the link to the granola recipe in the comments. You can find Kate at katemilliken.com, and you can follow me at sweavermph. If you know anyone that you think would enjoy this is not a young adult novel. This is definitely adult themes, so suitable for older teens, I would say. But
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but it's definitely not like, if you hear horses and girls, you might think, oh, it'd be great for a preteen. And there's some pretty adult things that happen in here. So just want to let parents know about that. incredible book, incredible crafting. Kate, thank you so much for being here today. Please share this, and we look forward to seeing you again in the Blue Nail Kitchen. Bye.
Bye.